see in Austin. News you can count on. This is Fox 7 News at 6.
Sex and murder. Sounds like a movie pilot.
Last February in Elgin, Texas, a suburb of Austin, 3 men got into a drunken brawl. When it was over, they were all dead.
So far, police have little leads on any suspect.
Eventually, people in Austin heard about the bizarre story, but they did not see it on the most watched station in town, KVUE TV, or KVUE, Channel 24.
We had the story for 3 days before and just didn't do anything with it.
And why not?
Didn't meet any of the guidelines.
At KVUE 24 News, crime stories must meet one of 5 guidelines to get on the air. Is there an immediate threat to safety? Is there a threat to children? Does action need to be taken? Does the crime have significant community impact? Does the story lend itself to a crime prevention effort? News director Carol Nealand says the triple murder in Elgin, as dramatic a tale as it was, had no larger significance.
It was just a one-day story that aired and kind of just like, you know, so much violent wallpaper and just went off into the ozone.
Two-shot, one, two-shot, right now, one.
The decision not to air the Elgin story was one of the early tests of a controversial experiment that has set local television news on its ear. At the beginning of the year, news executives took a hard look at the way their station covered crime. They did not like what they saw.
Kathy typed in search words for our computer, murder, 120 times, all in a week's time. And we thought we were being responsible. Probably not.
Newsroom managers then held focus groups with viewers and meetings with the staff to figure out what, if any, changes they could make and how to explain them to the viewers. The guidelines were announced during February rating sweeps. One might think that an effort like this would be met with unanimous acclaim. Perhaps surprisingly, the KVUE approach has been met with intense skepticism, especially in other newsrooms, where some reporters have called it elitist, politically correct, even censorship. And KVUE newsroom personnel had their own questions. Mike George runs the KVUE assignment desk.
You realize that we're now putting this to the test. The thing that was frustrating, well, let's start this over again because the phone's ringing now. ABC Austin, KVUE.
The reality is that the tests continue, including in the middle of our interview.
There's a bomb in Round Rock. Tell me about this.
George had gotten a call from a viewer who was dissatisfied with the information the police were giving about a bomb threat in her neighborhood.
KV24's Greg Rugen has the very latest. Greg?
Well, Judy, I'm here in the Chisholm Valley subdivision.
For the 5 o'clock newscast, reporter Greg Rugen gave a live report describing the scene. But after the newscast, cameraman Dave Carter shot exclusive footage of the Austin bomb squad detonating what turned out to be just a small propane pipe, not a bomb. It was a hoax.
Either we report it or we don't.
Back in the newsroom, the guidelines on the bomb scare were openly and emphatically debated.
In light of Atlanta, with what's happened, I mean, all they have to do is say bomb, and now everyone reacts.
That's all the more reason not to make a big deal of it. You know, in light of Atlanta, if you're going to report it, it better be big.
A quiet Round Rock neighborhood is returning to normal tonight.
Nealand refused to air the exclusive footage on the 10 o'clock show. The station reported only that the bomb scare was over. I'm not a child, and you know, if I want to see that mess, then I should be able to watch that mess.
We're not deciding that there's certain things we don't want you to see. We're just making decisions about what do people want to see.
Even with the guidelines, KVUE's decisions about which crimes merit coverage don't always come easily. Michelle McQueen continues her report in a moment.
Say that she beat a 2-year-old girl to death. And what makes this story significant is the age of the suspect. She's 12 years old.
Even with the crime story guidelines, the KVUE newsroom still confronts difficult questions about race and class. The same day as the bomb scare, a court hearing was held to determine whether a 12-year-old black girl, Lucretia Murray, accused of killing a 2-year-old child, should be charged as an adult. Reporter Anita Lopez was assigned to put the story in context.
Only about 0.5% of all children are committing violent crimes. And usually it's teens, not our younger children.
Robbie Owens reported on the arguments over trying Murray as an adult. Owens believes in the guidelines because she feels African Americans are often the victims of local television news.
If you are a white person and all you ever see of us is that we're criminals or that we're welfare mothers, what's going to make you think any differently?
And yet, says Austin media critic Diane Holloway, avoiding certain stories may lead to other equally negative results.
We need to remember that the loss of life in a lot of these murders is minority too. And are we putting less importance on a black or a Hispanic life if we don't cover it? The Elgin murders in particular were 3 Mexican immigrants.
It didn't have anything to do with the fact that they were Hispanic, whether they were white or African American or whatever the case may be.
Kathy McPheeters is the executive producer of KVUE 24 News.
So essentially what we could say is your life really isn't worth anything unless you are murdered. But if you die of a heart attack, or if you die of cancer, or if you die in a car accident, or if your baby has SIDS, or whatever the case, all the different reasons that people die in this country, then you're not important. The only way you'll get your 15 minutes of fame is if you're murdered. I don't agree with that.
And community leaders like Minister Sterling Land are applauding the new approach.
I'm not denying the fact that some of those things happen in the community and that they are news and they should be definitely reported, but they shouldn't be elevated.
Need to check to see if this is the Becker body.
And even with the guidelines, plenty of crime coverage still makes it on the air.
She's accused of killing 2-year-old Jayla Belton.
The story of the 12-year-old accused of murder was fair game for KVUE 24 News, and the girl's name was used despite her age.
How does it have significant community
When a child kills a baby, you don't think that's significant community impact?
How? Who does it affect other than that particular family?
Well, I think that it affects anybody who wants to put their baby in a child care center or a group home or home where people care for children. I would want to know as a mother that, hey, maybe I better pay a lot more attention to where I'm going to put my child.
Why is the girl being identified?
I don't know. I really don't know why that particular situation, because she is so young. I was not in on those discussions.
Is your newscast giving you all the news? Discover the KI Witness News difference.
And internal debates aside, KVUE's competitors continue to charge the station with hypocrisy, as well as censorship. KVUE 24 News has been the dominant market leader for only a few years. Newsroom executives admit they nervously watched the ratings to see how the experiment was received. In the first test, ratings were up, slightly.
How frightening was it for you, having taken the station to #1, to then possibly risk that position by trying something different?
It really wasn't frightening to me. In fact, for one thing, we already had going for us that Austin has not traditionally been as crime-oriented a television market as some other markets have been. Well, it's a smaller city for one thing, and there isn't as much crime. But the other part of it is that, you know, life is too short to worry too much about taking some risks. And if the thing that I would ever be known for was that I got fired because I tried to reduce the amount of senseless, violent crime on the station, you know, that's okay with me. You know, that wouldn't be the worst reputation to have.
I'll be back with a word about what's next in our series, America in Black and White, in a moment.